Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be going over my 4 core plays for tonight's 11-game NBA slate here on DraftKings. 4 players I think are vital building blocks for your lineup that should lead you to a successful night if you build around them. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and let's get into my favorite 4 core plays / building blocks. Before I go over my 4 core plays, just want to do a little recap of my lineup from last night. I got 8th place out of 1,800 people in the 3K single shot entry. Was in 4th place through most of the night, fell down 4 spots just because of that Clippers and Detroit game was actually pretty close and allowed some people to pass me, but can't complain about 8th place out of 1,800 people, 16 times in my money, my entry fee. So yeah, it was another solid night. Had a really good chance of a takedown. Unfortunately, both good and bad. Royce O'Neal obviously did great, got a triple-double for me, but he made that tip in to get him the triple-double at the end of the game to win in the game. That kind of screwed me out of OT. I would have been competing with this GABE Mike guy for first place in that takedown because Durant, Lillard, Nurk, and O'Neal would have been in there for me, and I probably most likely would have taken it down. So kind of lost out on a couple $100. I think it's like 500, which kind of sucks, but still really can't complain about 8th place out of 1,800 people. Another solid night. 5th night in a row of cashing, or I think it's 4 or 5, whatever it is. It's been a great streak. Let's look to continue it today with these 4 core plays. Core play number 1 is going to be Bones Hyland. Now, the first few plays are going to be pretty chalky, so I think we just had to get them out of the way. I mean, everyone's going to be building their lineups this way, but I think you really need to chase this chalk and build around them because they're too good of plays not to get to. So the first one I have is obviously going to be Bones Hyland, as I talked about in my whole full slate breakdown last night. You guys can check that out. That should be linked in my video. But the first one's going to be Bones Hyland. Right now, Jokic and Murray, when they're all in, when it's the full healthy team, Jokic and Murray are seeing about 26% usage rate. Obviously, with both of them out tonight, that is a ton of usage rate to go around. We saw Bones Hyland step up in that second game. Came off the bench. Obviously, they still had Jamal Murray, but he came off the bench, put up 22 minutes, 7 to 15, 34.75 fantasy points, 21, 7 and 2. Fantastic game off the bench in only 22 minutes. He's extremely efficient. And so with both Jokic and Murray gone, those usage rates are gone. Last season, Bones had, in about 780 minutes, a 26.5% usage rate coming off the bench. He's about a 1.15 fantasy point per minute player. And this season, it's a smaller sample size, but in 128.8 minutes, or 132.8 minutes without Jokic and without Murray, he put up a 34.5% usage rate, about 1.43 fantasy points per minute. So when he's 5K, most likely going to start, going to see at least 30 minutes, if not more. With a 34% usage rate, it's going to be insane. He's going to be leading the team as that point guard, as a scoring guard, as a playmaker, all that stuff. 1.43 fantasy points per minute. Too good not to play Bones Hyland here. Even against a tough Dallas defense, I think Bones Hyland is obviously the best play of the day here at $5,000. My second core play is going to be Gabe Vincent for the Miami Heat. Now, he's a guy who has been seeing consistent minutes, as you can see, 35, 38, 30, 25, 32. He's been shooting it about 12-ish times a game. Pretty decent field goal percent, too. Decent three-point shooter. And so you may be thinking, why Gabe Vincent? Well, we got news that Jimmy Butler is now out for tonight. Hero is still out. Bam is questionable, most likely doubtful, so he probably won't be in. So it's most likely going to be the backups playing for the Miami Heat. That means Gabe Vincent most likely will step into the starting point guard role or the shooting guard role. We still have to wait for Kyle Lowry news. As of right now, he's in, but I mean, if they're sitting everyone else, all those other starters, I don't know if Kyle Lowry will still play tonight. We'll have to wait for that news. But even if he does, still really love Gabe Vincent. 4,600 price tag on DraftKings. Already seen those minutes. It's just he's stepping into even more secure role of those minutes, plus the usage rate. So with Hero, Bam, and Jimmy, they all have about 26% usage rates. Now with all of them off the floor, that has to go to someone. It has to go to multiple people. I do expect Strus to step up. Jovic will probably start again, so they look like solid values. But my favorite one is going to be Gabe Vincent. he was about an 18.6% usage rate, about 0.76 fantasy point per minute guy with all the starters in and him coming off the bench, which is actually pretty solid if you think about it. Now with all those guys off the floor, in about a good sample size, about 400 minutes over the course of this year and last year, his usage rate jumps up to about 28.3% with Jimmy, Bam, and Hero off the floor. So a 28% usage rate is huge. His point per minute jumps up to about 0.81, so not a huge increase, but that's with him kind of being that secondary player. He's an aggressive guy. He can easily score. Already in a smaller role, not as much usage as you can see. He's already putting up about 26 fantasy points at 4,600, going against a very solid matchup here against Washington. I think another smash play for tonight is obviously going to be Gabe Vincent and a few of those other Miami guys. We'll have to wait and see what the starting lineup is like, but my initial core play build is going to be around Gabe Vincent as well. My third core play for tonight is going to be Dennis Schroeder. Now, I'm not sure if the ownership will be there. I'm sure it will pick up over the course of the night, kind of depending on how the ownership goes, if people start touting him. But as of right now, I do think he'll be kind of semi-low owned with a lot of news kind of breaking of people setting other value plays jumping up. And I do think people are going to forget about him as of right now, but we'll have to see how the ownership goes. But the reason why I really like Dennis Schroeder in this spot at 4,700, he's very cheap. The Lakers are, we know this year, one of the worst shooting teams ever when it comes to three-pointers. They have 0 guards. Reeves is terrible. Pat Bev is terrible. Lonnie Walker's not the best. They really have no point guard. Russell's coming off the bench, so they need a true point guard in that starting lineup. I believe it's going to be Dennis Schroeder. I don't think he'll be in the minutes limit, even if he is. If we're getting at least 25 minutes out of him, still think he's a great play at 4,700, and here's why. He's coming off a hugely successful summer for Germany in that Euro basketball tournament this summer. I think he led them to the third place game. He was averaging about, I think it was like 23 or 24 points per game. It was going crazy with the stats. So he had a great summer. And last year, over a course of about 64 games played between the Celtics in Houston, he's playing about 28 minutes per game, 10 shots a game, about a 14 point per game career guy, especially last year, 14 points per game, about 0.8 steals per game, almost 1 steal a game, over 4 assists a game, and over 3 rebounds per game. So even if he is limited to around 25 minutes, that's slightly less. That's only 3 minutes less than what he was getting last year. And he was still able to put up about 14 points per game, 4 assists per game, and 3 rebounds. And I really think the Lakers are going to need to rely on him, his veteran expertise, and his scoring. With how bad those guards are, I think they're going to rely on Dennis. He's going to see at least 25, if not more, closer to 30 minutes. He's a very solid point per minute guy. I just love him in the spot, 4,700, going against a terrible Detroit defense. I really think him and AD are going to pick apart that Detroit defense in the pick and roll. Dennis Schroeder is a great pick and roll guy, so he's another fantastic play for tonight if he's going to play 25 plus minutes, which I think he will. My fourth core play for tonight is going to be Tyrese Halliburton. I'm sure he'll get a little bit of ownership just because it's a great matchup against Houston, but I do think a lot of people will kind of be off of him. It's looking like it's going to be more of a value, like a stars and scrub slate with how much values opening up with all these guards, with the Miami Heat, small forwards, power forwards opening up, all that stuff. So I think his ownership will be still pretty low. So I do think we can take advantage of this smash spot going against Houston, one of the worst defenses in the league. They give a ton of points. They play very fast as well. They shoot a ton. So Tyrese Halliburton has been about a 47 point per game, fantasy point per game guy so far this season, playing at least averaging about 35 minutes a game. His per 36 is 50 fantasy points, and that's pretty much what he's seen per game, about 36 minutes per game. He's averaging 23.5% usage rate per game, about 1.38 fantasy points per minute as well. So that equals about 50 fantasy points for the whole game. And yeah, it's just a fantastic matchup going against Houston. As you can see, he's shooting at least 15 times a game. He's getting to the free throw line. Not a ton, but he can get you there in some games. But he's just a very solid shooter from 3. Hasn't been shooting the best past few games, 37, 22, and 37%. But the minutes are there, about 36 per game. shooting the ball a ton. And even when he shoots the ball bad, this is a great thing about him. Even when he shoots the ball bad, he still has that massive double-double upside with the assists. You know, he goes out, plays 39 minutes against Toronto, 3 of 14, 2 of 9 from 3. That's terrible. You'd think he'd have like 25 fantasy points. You know, only puts up 8 points. You think, oh, you're screwed. Nope. He gets 6 rebounds, 15 assists, a block, and 2 steals. He's just fantastic in every stat, especially those assists. He's a guy who, even if he shoots bad, he's still going to find you those assists. He's still likely to score. So he's had one of the safest floors in DFS so far this season for NBA. His worst game was 41.5 points, or I guess 29.5. But otherwise, it's been 41.5, 9,200. Great price tag for Tyrese once again going against a Houston team. Do expect him to pick up some ownership, but I love him in the spot, and he's going to be my 4th core play. Now that we got these 4 core plays for tonight to build your guys' lineup around, we got about $6,600 left over to kind of work into our lineup. So as of right now, we're still waiting on a bunch of news, which can kind of shift the value plays and the core plays for tonight in the small forward, power forward, center roles. As I said, it's kind of looking like that starts and scrub build. So you could definitely get up to a guy like Luka. Obviously, with all these guards, if you're going to play them all, you really can't get to a guy like Luka, or I meant like Giannis. You can't get to Luka, but you can get to Giannis. Still have 4,600 left over. That would allow you to pay for guys like on Miami with, you know, Jimmy out, Bam most likely out. I'm assuming Kyle Lowry probably won't start. You know, Max Strus 5,800. Yeah, he's pretty score independent, but with all those guys out, all that usage out, you know, he's going to have to step up when it comes to rebounds and assists. He can get some blocks and steals, so he looks very solid there at 5,800. But I'm assuming they'll also start guys like Jovic, power forward. He's score independent. He's not good at defense, but with all those guys out, he should see at least, you know, 25 minutes, if not more. Would expect maybe a guy like Orlando Robinson to start. Jamal Cain, you know, Highsmith is a very good point per minute guy, as we saw in the preseason. He's a guy who's actually seen some minutes this year, so him at the flat minimum price, I'm sure if he gets in the starting lineup, he's going to be super high owned. So you could throw him in there. You get 5,400 left over. You could fit in another, I think, decently expensive guy. Let's see here. 10,000. So I guess you just go down to like the 7K range. You know, you could get down to Vooch, who I think is in a great matchup against Orlando here. Wendell Carter at 7,100. His price is a little bit too low. Brunson looks great against Golden State. Obviously, you can't fit another point guard in. But let's just get to... Yeah, let's just get to like a Vooch to kind of fill out this lineup. I think he's, you know, point per minute. I think it's just his price point is a little bit too low there going against Orlando. Great matchup. And then you get 3,800 left over for the forward spot. Leaves you with a good amount of options. You know, you can get to Cam Reddish. Sims has actually been decent for the Knicks off the bench the past 2 games. Don't really trust that, but once again, you can look to that Miami Heat value with Jovic most likely going to start, as you saw in 24 minutes, alongside Jimmy, alongside Kyle Lowry, Strus. You know, he still was able to put up 19, almost 20 fantasy points, shot it 8 times, decent shooter, not the best defender, but at 3,500, you know, him seeing probably 25 plus minutes, another great spot going against Washington. So you can definitely fill out your lineup like that. But yeah, it's kind of up to you guys. Really like the 4 core plays for tonight. Once again, it's going to be Dennis Schroeder, Bones Hyland, Gabe Vincent, Tyrese Halliburton. So if you guys like the video, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video.